Let's get to the news. Vice President Kamala Harris held a fundraiser last night in New York and reportedly raised $27 million, but then she ended up spending it all on an Uber to JFK. During a rally on Saturday in North Carolina, former President Trump spoke about his agenda for women and said, quote, "Let's talk about our great women, all right? Because women have gone through a lot, and I assume he's speaking from experience." Trust me, it's been no party. They've suffered. In a post over the weekend on Truth Social, former President Trump said that if he's elected, quote, "women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free." So now J.D. Vance is undecided. During a campaign event last week with Oprah Winfrey, Vice President Kamala Harris defended her right to own a gun and said, quote, "If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot. Whereas if someone breaks into Oprah's house, they're getting lost." Former President Trump falsely claimed in a Truth Social post over the weekend that he appeared on Oprah's last TV show, which brings us to a new segment entitled, "Why That Lie?" Most of your lies at least make sense strategically, you know. You want people to think you're smart or good at politics or something. Well, why that lie? It only took me 4 seconds to Google that. Do you think it'll help you with swing voters? Do you want us to think you know some nice billionaires? I just can't figure it out. Your lies about the economy or crime or immigration or how tall you are, those all make sense, but why that lie?
This has been Why That Lie?
Oh, all right. Hey, wait. You're insane. After CNN published a story last week detailing his history of posting inflammatory comments on a porn site's message board, Republican North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson has reportedly lost half of his campaign staff. This first reported in a comment under MILF Party 6. Ahead of next week's vice presidential debate, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has reportedly been playing Ohio Senator J.D. Vance in debate prep sessions. "It's fun to pretend to be someone you're not," said J.D. Vance. That's right, the Harris campaign has been using Pete Buttigieg to play J.D. Vance in debate prep sessions, as opposed to what they should be doing, picking random words out of a hat. Trans migrants are impregnating American Girl dolls. Today was Bruce Springsteen's 75th birthday, in case you were wondering why all the banks in New Jersey were closed. And finally, Darden Restaurants has announced a new partnership with Uber Direct to offer delivery from Olive Garden, though your driver will be pretty pissed the 7th time you make him go back for unlimited breadsticks. That's the law, buddy! During a campaign event last week, Vice President Kamala Harris defended her right to own a gun and said, quote, "If somebody breaks into my house, they're getting shot." While Tim Walz said, "And if they break into mine, they're getting cocoa." During a rally on Saturday in North Carolina, former President Trump called his 5-year-old granddaughter up on stage and said, quote, "She's beautiful and she's sweet and she doesn't know how evil life is." You know, I used to think president was the job he was least qualified for, but now I think it might be kindergarten teacher. We're gonna do our ABCs now, and I have some things to tell you when we get to E. There's a lot of E's you don't know about. In a post on Truth Social, former President Trump said that he, quote, "saved flavored vaping in 2019 and added that he will save vaping again. Finally, some good news for that cousin you only see at Christmas." In a new interview, former Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway said that former President Trump could lose the 2024 election and graciously concede defeat. You know, maybe. After all, there is video of that one time he actually did concede defeat. I think that's fine. I've seen that happen before. They're called umbrella steps. Ahead of next week's vice presidential debate, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has reportedly been playing Ohio Senator J.D. Vance in debate prep sessions. He's been getting into character by looking in the mirror every morning and telling himself he's going to hell. The National Toy Hall of Fame last week announced this year's finalists for induction into the museum, while Dads announced the finalists for the National That's Not a Toy Hall of Fame. First inductee, the thermostat. The Hershey Company has announced a new partnership with C4 Energy to release candy-flavored energy drinks. Congratulations, you invented soda. Researchers at a library in Germany recently discovered a previously unknown piece of music that was composed by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and apparently he goes after Drake pretty hard. Pope Francis canceled his audiences on Monday due to a slight flu-like state. Cool, said the thousands of people who shared his cup. And finally, a cat that went missing during their owner's trip to Yellowstone National Park was found recently in California, more than 900 miles away. That story's pretty unbelievable. Who brings their cat on vacation? What's the point of vacation if it's not getting away from your cat? President Biden spoke yesterday at the 79th session of the UN General Assembly. That's right, he's older than the UN. Hey, Croatia, what's up, rookie? Slovakia, welcome aboard. I was already on statins when you became a country. No joke, no joke. President Biden is set to appear today on The View in the hopes of finally brokering a peace deal. Vice President Kamala Harris spoke today in Pittsburgh and laid out her economic plan, while Trump laid out his economic plan on QVC. At a campaign rally yesterday in Georgia, former President Trump said that the word tariff, quote, is a beautiful word, and it's also what he thinks his other daughter's name is. At the same rally, Trump also claimed that Vice President Kamala Harris lied about working at a McDonald's and said that he would go to the restaurant chain in the next 2 weeks to see, quote, what her job really wasn't like. And even if she can provide proof that she worked there, he's still probably going to go to McDonald's in the next 2 weeks. Authorities were recently called to a Colorado middle school after a black bear cub was discovered in the cafeteria, which might have something to do with the school's new lunch lady. That's RFK Jr. He found a dead bear cub. He put it in his car. The humor here, ideally, I mean, in a perfect world, the humor here is that the bear cub's at the school because, because he's the new lunch lady and, he eats weird. They say comedy doesn't work if you have to explain it, but I feel like in this case, I think we all learned a little something. While campaigning this week outside Pittsburgh, former President Trump urged supporters to vote early before saying minutes later that early voting is stupid. Then again, it wouldn't be the first time. If I'm honest, I was still a little mad the bear thing didn't get a better laugh. And so I flubbed, but it was a resentment flub. We're gonna do this, but I don't have high hopes. While campaigning this week outside Pittsburgh, former President Trump urged supporters to vote early before saying minutes later that early voting is stupid. Then again, it wouldn't be the first stupid thing he's asked his supporters to do. There we go, thank you. It's courtesy, it's sympathy. Long Island Congressman Anthony D'Esposito reportedly hired his fiance's daughter and a woman he was having an affair with to work at his congressional office, which residents of Long Island are calling a refreshing change in corruption. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance's debate rehearsals have reportedly included so-called murder boards, which are used to identify potentially difficult questions. Questions like, what can we get you? And finally, passengers aboard a train in England recently evacuated after 2 squirrels were discovered on board. While over in New York, passengers ignored the rats having a knife fight. Well, it turns out Eric Adams was right. Crime is way up in New York City. New York Mayor Eric Adams was indicted yesterday on federal criminal charges, and that distant laughter you hear is coming from every rat in New York City. You thought you was gonna take us out? Now what, wise guy? That's right, Eric Adams was indicted yesterday on federal criminal charges. Oh, please let his little robot cop do the arrest. It'll be like when Allison Williams realized she shouldn't have built Megan. I'll bet he's really regretting holding that press conference with a trash can full of shredded evidence. Federal prosecutors today unsealed the indictment against New York Mayor Eric Adams, which alleges that Adams accepted improper gifts such as luxury international travel. Oh, really? Said New Yorkers. You know what luxury travel is to a New Yorker right now? No one masturbating and most of the rats are dead. When New York City Mayor Eric Adams indicted on federal charges, many people are wondering who becomes mayor if he's forced to step down. Furthermore, with several other city officials also ensnared in the investigation, it's possible they may be unable to serve as well. Luckily, what happens in a situation like this is clearly spelled out in the city's charter. Here is the line of succession for the office of New York City mayor. If Eric Adams resigns, he'll be replaced by public advocate Jumaane Williams. And if he resigns, he'll be replaced by City Comptroller Brad Lander. Following him, it's Times Square Elmo. Then, the naked cowboy, Pizza Rat, the ghost of Rudy Giuliani. 79 pigeons in a suit. Dr. Zizmore, Mr. Met. The Showtime dancers from the D-Train. A bodega cat. Bill de Blasio, but this time he promises he'll be cool. Billy Joel. Harry Truman, Doris Day, Red China, Johnny Ray. Eric Adams in a mustache, and finally, Hoda. And that is the line of succession for the office of New York City Mayor. Ukrainian President Zelensky met today with President Biden and reportedly presented his new undisclosed victory plan. Said Biden, "Really? You still think I can win the election?" Scientists in Japan have unveiled a new robot face that is made with a living skin that can smile and mimic other human facial movements. And despite the fact that it's not quite ready, Republicans are running it for vice president. Researchers in New Zealand have discovered a new species of shark called the narrow-nosed spookfish. Said the shark, "Hey, what the hell, man?" Sandberg was here last night, but we would definitely have Sandberg play that shark. Narrow nose? Spookfish? What the man? And finally, after CNN published a report last week about Republican North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson's history of posting inflammatory comments on a porn site's message board, several members of Robinson's staff are reportedly planning to resign. And Robinson is either really sad or those tissues are for something else.